Before anything else, kiddos, I want you to take a look at my list that I have at the top. This should have been the list that you created on your last slide. These are the factors of 100. And remember, we think of them in pairs because factors always have a pair. So 1 times 100 is 100, 2 times 50, 4 times 25, 5 times 20, and then 10 times itself, 10 times 10. We only have to list it once. So please, if you have those incorrect, go back and fix them. And you might be wondering why I just pulled that out of nowhere and had you write the factors of 100. I promise there is a method to my madness. So thinking about the factors of 100 are actually going to help us turn our fractions into percentages, because any one of these numbers can be turned into 100. And isn't 100 our magic number? Don't we always want 100 at the bottom of our fraction if we're talking about a percent? A percent is always something per 100. We always want a 100 as the denominator. So if we don't have 100 as a denominator, but we still want to turn our fraction into a percent, then as long as we can turn the denominator into 100, we can turn our fraction into a percentage. So take a look at what I mean. I'm going to start with this guy, 12 over 50. And 12 over 50, I don't know what the percent is because I need it to be something out of 100. I need a 100 at the bottom. But since 50 is a factor of 100, that means I can easily turn it into 100. So think to yourself, how does 50 turn into 100? It gets multiplied by 2. So therefore, we know we have to do the very same thing to the top. And 12 times 2 turns into 24. Bam! I now know automatically that 12 out of 50 is 24% because it's 24 over 100. So I want you to hear that one more time. As long as we have a denominator that is any of these numbers, a 1, a 2, a 4, a 5, and so on, we can turn that denominator into 100 because it's a factor of 100. And therefore, we can turn our fraction that we're working with into a percent. So let's go a little faster. I'm going to go to the right, that 8 over 10. And yes, 10 is a factor of 100. That means I can turn 10 into 100. And how does that happen? Well, it gets multiplied by 10. And at the top, same thing, 8 times 10 is 80. So 80 per 100 is really 80%. Now, before we go any further, I also want to point out to you that since we turned our fractions into something out of 100, we can now easily write them as a decimal as well. So my 12 over 50, I turned it into 24 over 100. And isn't 24 hundredths also a decimal? Couldn't I write that as 0.24, 24 hundredths? So I easily went from the fraction to the equivalent fraction per 100, turned that into both a decimal and a percent. Over to my 8 out of 10, I turned it into 80 out of 100, and 80 hundredths looks like this. So I have my fraction, my decimal, and my percent all together. I'm going to go through the next ones. Just think to yourself as I'm working. I have a 25 on 8/25, and that is also up here on my list. It's right here. Its partner, if I look, is 4. So 4 times 25 makes 100. So I can write 100 down here, and I know 25 gets multiplied by 4. So 8 gets multiplied by 4. And what is 8 out of 25? It is 32 hundredths, or 32%. And how do I write that as a decimal? 32 hundredths looks like that. Now what's a little different about the next one? 24 out of 300. Obviously 300 is not on my list. 300 is not a factor of 100. but 300 is a multiple. That means I can still turn 300 into my goal of 100 at the bottom. What needs to happen to make that change? Hopefully you are thinking 300 gets divided by 3 to turn into 100. So therefore at the top, if I divide 24 by 3, I end up with 8 over 100. And what is that as a percent? 8/100ths is 8%. Turning into a decimal, 8/100ths. Remember, we've got to put that 0 in there. That is 8/100ths. 0.8 would be 8/10. The same kind of thinking with 16 over 400. I can turn 400 into 100 like I need to by dividing by 4. So therefore the top gets divided by 4 and I have 4/100ths, which is 4%, and that is 0.04, 4/100ths. Last but not least, 3 over 2. I can definitely turn 2 into 100. It's part of my list up here. 2's partner is 50. So 2 times 50 is 100. Therefore, 3 times 50 is 150. So 150/100ths is 150%. This guy is a little trickier when we're talking decimal. 150%, if you agree, we can really break that down into 100% and 50%. And 100% is the whole number 1. 50% is 50/100ths. So 50% is 1.5 or 1.50.